Welcome to DevOps Info channel. Today we are going to take a look at the advanced hunting option in the Microsoft 365 Defender. This advanced hunting is a query-based threat hunting tool that gives us access up to gather the data which is of the last 30 days. This advanced hunting is working with the Custer query language in the backend. If you have already worked with the Custer query language for the Azure Monitor in the Log Analytics workspace or for the Azure Sentinel workspaces, it is going to be the same because they use the same configuration for collecting the events from the Microsoft 365 Defender endpoints. And then we are going to use the same Custer query language parameters that is applicable for the Microsoft 365 Defender. So this one will help us in finding the threat signs and proactively examine the network events, and also we can provide threat detection for both unknown and known threats. This is very helpful. Um, and basically, there are two forms of advanced hunting that are supported by default. Sorry. The first one is the guided and the advanced. So if you're new to the cluster query language, or you want to get started with this, the best option is used to get started with the guided one. The guided one is more convenient, and you are, getting confident in using the custom query language. Uh, in that case, you can always go ahead with the advanced hunting. If you are more comfortable with custom query language, they've already used in the past, then you can always go with advanced hunting. Um, the query builder in the guided mode will always allow you to create hunting queries without the knowledge of the cluster query language. So the analytics from the from all the tiers, like from the support first level to the third level, they can use this query builder to filter throughout the data from the last 30 days, and then they can obviously expand the incident investigation, perform data analytics, the threat data, and also focus on specific threat areas. Uh, excuse me. Um, so to get into the guided mode, all you need to do is just log in into the Microsoft 365 Defender console. Over the left, you have the hunting, and when you click on the advanced hunting, on the drop down, create a new, we have two options: query in editor and query in builder. The moment when you click on query in builder, then you would eventually bring to this screen where you have the option to choose and build the query of your own. So this one, like for example, here you can choose from what you want to build. For example, all domains. When you click on here, you have the option to choose all domains. That will help you to look through all the available data in your query. And for example, when you click on endpoints, that will help you in looking the data which is provided from the Microsoft Defender for endpoint. And then you also have something called apps and identities. This will help you to look for the application and the identity data that is provided by the Microsoft Defender for the cloud apps. For example, if you have the Microsoft Defender for cloud apps enabled, then you can just use this and see any related events. And you have, for example, email and collaboration. This will help you for looking through the email and collaboration data like SharePoint, OneDrive, and also others. So for people who are familiar with the Threat Explorer, can definitely find the data over here. So by default, the guidance hunting includes few basic filter to get started. Uh, so if you want to see more filters and condition, you can just always toggle this switch on, and then you can see the advanced one. So here, excuse me. And the moment when you click on the options, for example, in our case, I'm just choosing the endpoints, and then in the endpoints, you have the load sample queries over the right. Here you see like remote administration from public IPs, use of troubleshooting mode, or changes to a local group. Or if you still want some guide, then if you scroll all the way towards the down, you have something called getting started. Here it shows you an example, these are the ones which you can get started. For example, when you click on the file activity by SHA-256, this is the load example. The moment when you click on this, this will look for the file activity that is having the SHA-256. So here, when I click on the run query, it's always important to know that the query that you are building here, uh, if it is successful, then it shows a blue icon at the top. And just in case if a query that you're developing is showing the run query grayed out, then your query is not right. So here, the moment when you click on run query, then it is going to give me the results. In my case, I don't have any results. That's the reason it's empty. Uh, so, for example, if I want to see any ones which is, excuse me, um, if I want to see anyone that is valid and available, let's try to run this. It doesn't give me. So, for example, account SIP, I'm just going to type in my name. Let's see, and then I'm going to run this query. And the moment when I run this query, it doesn't find any activity, and that's the reason it gives me this error. I guess I have something built in the past which I can also show you. So here, what I can do is select, this is again the advanced hunting. So in the advanced hunting, when you click on all filters, here I have a filter, like for example, I can just go uh, device info. I can type in device is Azure already joined. Look for the devices which is Azure already joined. So I'm just going to true, select true. So look for the devices which is Azure already joined, the value equals true. I'm just going to run this query. So it would list me all the devices which is Azure already joined. So we can take a look at it. See, for example, I have two devices, excuse me, which is Azure already joined. So like the moment after you run the query, you see the device info, timestamp, device ID, and the device name. So what I can do is, for example, when I select the first event, there is an option for me to link to an incident. So what is this link to an incident? Um, in my case, it is just only the device info, but for example, I'm just showing if it is any real threat that you have found over the advanced hunting, you can select the device, you can select that particular event ID, and then you have an option to link to an incident. The moment when you click on link to an incident, it is giving you an option to create a new incident or link to an existing incident. The moment when you create a new incident, for example, I'm just typing test device info, and then the severity is going to be low, or its information, and category is going to be uh, I don't see anything, but yeah, you need to choose the category, but I'm just typing for example discovery, and then excuse me, meter techniques. I don't know what is this, but I will look into this and come back to come back on the next video. Description, I'm just typing device info Azure AD join. The same thing, recommended action, a list of Azure AD join devices. Okay, so the moment when I click on next, the impacted entities is, it would list you the devices or the objects that is associated with that, in associated with this query. So in our example, it is the device, so that's the reason we have option to choose device, and the other ones are not related to this query, and hence you cannot choose mailbox or user. So here I select the device, and I'm going to choose the device name and click on next. So here when I click on submit, eventually an incident would be created, which you can see, just a second, I'm going to show that. Excuse me. So here, if you come here, then there is something called incidents, and in incidents you can see the incident that we created. It could take some time, I guess. It should show. Let's refresh the page. I think it was submitted. Okay, so but this is the way it comes. Like the moment when you create the incident, it should it should show over here, and then you can take a look at them and then action on it. Okay, so the queries, when you run, you have an option to link to an incident, which is great. And eventually there is also another option which is called take actions. So the take actions, like when you click on that, you have something like you have an option to isolate the device, collect the investigation package, run antivirus scan, or even restrict app execution. So in our example, like for example, when I click on run antivirus scan, you also have an option to go next, and then select the device, click next, and then you just run the antivirus scan. So here you can just type in the remediation name and then go ahead. So in my case, just only an example, I'm just typing test, and the moment when you click on submit, it is going to run the antivirus scan. So this overall, the query builder, in the guided mode, really helps us to create, meaningful hunting queries without the need of the custom query language, and then you can easily build your filter through the data from the last 30 days, expand your incident investigation, and also probably if you want to take action on the threat, then it's definitely easier to take action on this way. So you can also use more filter groups, and then use the conditions, and then you can build your queries. But it's important that whatever the query that you're building, the object needs to have that information and the value. If it does not have, then yeah, it does not give you the results. Yeah. So this is what you see it on the in the query builder. So going back to the advanced hunting, and I just wanted to show you another one thing. Like in this query builder, when you run, there is something called create detection rule. So this create detection rule is something very interesting. The moment when you click on create detection rule, this detection rule is something like you can allow to create a kind of a scheduled task that would run based on your query on a periodic interval, and check for such kind of events and take any actions. So for example, on this one we are creating an alert. So I'm just mentioning device excuse me, Azure AD device info, and then I'm just clicking on the frequency. Here you have option to run every hour from 24 hours, and then alert title, again, Azure AD device info. Next, severity is going to choose low, and then category, just discovery, and then yeah, you see the description, again, device info. So here I'm just going on next. Here the impacted entity is device, and device name. Choose the column containing. You have to choose any one of the columns. So next, and then here actions. If you click on the scroll down, you have option to run the antivirus scan, and the files, you have option to allow a block, and also the users. Mark user as compromised, but here it's the device. Hence, these options are grayed out, and also we're not targeting a specific file, and that's the reason we also don't have this option to choose. Even in the emails, you don't see it because we're not using any action to move or delete the email. So when you click on next, this job would be complete. This job will be scheduled. So the this job would be running once in every 24 hours, and after 24 hours, you would be able to see, like just in case if anything is identified based on your query, and then it would take action. For example, run an antivirus scan on the particular device, and then isolate it, or whatever the options you're choosing, it would act accordingly. So the rules, whatever you create, over the left, when you click on the custom detection rules, all these options, the rules, whatever you have created, would be listing over here. And these are all the examples which I created, the first and the second one. So if you see, you could also see the created on, and then when it was last run, and the status also, it was completed or successful, and then excuse me, you can open the rule and then see the results. When was the last run and what was the scope? So this is really good. Um, so this is what I had to talk about the builder, the custom, the the basic level of the query builder. And the next one is like the advanced hunting. When you go into the advanced hunting, this advanced hunting helps you to build the queries. If you're more familiar with the custom query language, uh, so in order to go into the advanced hunting, like you just click on create new and then just click the option in query editor. The moment when you select in query editor, it's going to bring you to this screen where you have the option of building your own query. So here there is three dots. Like for example, when you click on it, you see excuse me, you see three options: functions, queries, and detection rules. The detection rules is one which we see already. You can also create the detection rules by pasting your query and then creating a detection rules. The next one is the queries. The moment when you click on the queries, here based on your based on your data that is received over here, it would give you some suggested queries. For example, here you see this is the suggested queries that is coming from the data that it has been received. So here, like for example, I can choose Microsoft Defender for endpoint, and here I can select something which is possible for us to look for the values. So I see something called endpoint status report. Let's see if it is working. So in order to run this, it's just as simple as that. What you do in the log analytics workspace, you just click on the three dots and then just use the option open in query editor. It is going to bring the query here and then just click on run query. Oh, I did not select the right one. I have to select the endpoint status, open in query editor. Excuse me. So in the query editor, when I run the endpoint status report, I see two items. Yes, I have endpoint status report. I have two devices, which is enabled for the Microsoft 365 Defender. Uh, so even also they have the Microsoft Defender installed on them. So that's the reason it says the status. So for example, it's antivirus is enabled, antivirus reporting is good, antivirus signature version is good, cloud protection is good. And also one more thing, if you want to see additional columns, you can always click on customize columns and then select all these values. So I have already selected, and that's the reason it is showing over here. So you can see all the values, and just in case if you want to export, excuse me, here you can just click on export, and then that is going to give you a CSV file, and then you can do any further investigation from the results what you get. So this is the advanced hunting you see, and there is also something called, if you scroll down, these are the community queries, which is always updated from the community. If you find something interesting, you can always run or modify it from the one which you get from the community queries. For example, in the network, when I click on drop down, you see like Defender for endpoint telemetry. So here, let's try to run this. Open in query editor, and then just going to run this. The moment when you run this, yeah, you see the endpoint telemetry report. What are the connection that it was received by the Microsoft Defender? Yeah, I don't want the line chart. Let's remove the render. Let's try to get only the summarized values. So just run the query, and then you see, yeah, you see the connection success. So these are the connection that is success, these are the connection that is failed. So basically it is giving the defender for endpoint telemetry. This is a very good one, which is which would help us to identify the endpoint telemetry for the defender for telemetry for defender for endpoint. This is really good one, which came from one of the community contributor, which is good. uh, yes, so this is what to talk about the advanced hunting. And with this, you will be able to define a lot of things. And the next one is like you have something called schema. And the moment when you click on the schema, this schema is nothing but these are the values that you can use in your cluster query. If you want to, on the left, when I click on the schema, you see alert info, identity info, all these things. These are the schema that you can use on your query. If you want to get more information, you can always come to the schema reference. You can click on the three dots and use the schema reference. And the schema reference, for example, you see the AAD sign-in events beta. So for example, when you click on the AAD sign-in event beta, it gives a description about what are the AAD sign-in events, either by a user or by the client or the on the user behalf of non-interactive. So it can be an interactive user or a non-interactive user. Um, for example, you have something called device events. This would also multiple event types, including event triggers by security controls such as Windows Defender, antivirus, and exploit protection. So you have timestamp, device ID, device name, and when you click on view all, it gives you a lot of information. This is really good. So based on this, you can build your cluster query by referring to the schema reference. So even here, for any cluster query, if you take a look at it, it is going to use any one of the schema reference values. See, for example, here they have used device ID. So excuse me, and you see here we also have device id. It should be having the device id. So these kind of information you can use to build your advanced hunting by referring to the schema reference. And the next thing which I wanted to tell you last is something called functions. This function is something you can use it in your cluster query language to build your query. So, for example, in the custom query language, when you switch to functions, for example, I'm just choosing device from IP and the IP, excuse me. So here, when you click on the IP, um, it is going to bring you the function. Okay, so again, going back to function, and then when you click on scene by, it is taking some time. Yeah. So basically, the function when you click on it, it would yeah, it is entering the values. So for example, when I delete this, and in the IP address when I type in, it is giving me the IP address, and from here you can use the basic queries. So when you choose this IP address, if you're not sure what you need to uh, use in the function, I can use IP address and limit. So for example, when I type in limit, it says identity directory events limit 10. So when I run this, it is going to give me only the values which is limited to the first 10. Here I don't see anything. I can also run, for example, device. There should be something for device. Yeah, device events. Let's look for device events, run the query, and then it is going to give you the values only for the first 10. So these kind of functions you can also use in your query and then build your advanced hunting. So this is one of the best benefit of using the custom query language. Yes, on the advanced hunting, you can define a new query and then identify, investigate, and respond to all kind of threats. Since this is the initial part of the video of how to get started with the advanced hunting in the Microsoft 365 Defender. I don't want to go further more. We would have further videos on this, on some use case on how to use the advanced hunting for the troubleshooting purpose, and also for looking into your monitoring part. So overall, I would say, like, if you're not sure where to start for the advanced hunting, I would always suggest to start with a query-based threat hunting tool, and then that will help you to look for any kind of data that is available in the Microsoft 365 Defender for the last 30 days. And with that, you can build more filters, groups, and then generate the reports you can identify, investigate, and respond to any kind of threat. Hope you enjoy this video, and we will be continuing further on the advanced hunting in the upcoming videos. Thank you.